first thing has to be, you have to really want to grow yourself. I mean, that's the first thing, and you have to be holding that feeling in your heart. And the second thing is service. I mean, you have to want to really be of service, and that dedication, devotion to being of service will drive, I mean, that is compelling. Mm-hmm. That drives a person to want to learn more and to experience more deeply and develop one's capacity for doing whatever it is you do to serve. I mean, just like, being a healer or being a teacher of anything.
What's the person look like that's succeeding in their practice?
I think increasingly it's somebody who is, devoted themselves to cultivating their own self-cultivation. There are three contexts, actually. There's the personal context, which is expressed as practice. There is then the family context. Well, that can look like a lot of different things. The ashram as family. Family is family, but it's my opinion by now that if you don't have a teacher, a real teacher, and a real commitment to that teacher, that where you are is still stuck in the disappointments of your ancestors without any lever to move you beyond that.
Do you think that's because people have those tensions with their ancestors who, for intents and purposes, would be the elder or the...
No, here's what I think. I think that the disappointments of our ancestors, or karma, while it is not a material substance, as some early Indian traditions might have claimed, like mala as a material substance, the disappointments of our ancestors is actually the shape of the binding of the molecules that compose our DNA and the special state of each person's DNA. There's not a physical substance there, but it is a real state. It is a state of relationship between all the different the different information components that compose us, and that state, is energetically, it is magnetically composed of the same material that our parents are composed of, not material, the shape of the bindings, is the same shape as the shape of our family, until we have some kind of a spiritual connection that reorganizes all those shapes and literally makes us a different person. Now, there's another way that I've seen the shape of those bindings change, and that's with psychoactive chemicals, like marijuana a little bit, but LSD and DMT and mushrooms and cactuses and stuff like that. Seen that shape change. The problem is, with those chemicals, shape goes back. For the most part, it goes back to exactly what it was before, because the whole system of our family interconnectedness is self-reinforcing. Those chemical bindings will, continually take on the shape of the state that we are connected to in a bigger field beyond ourselves.
I'm going to bring you back to, just to finish, practice having a guru.
It's fine. Personal practice is the first context. Family is the second context.
And with family, before we go on, because there's a third context.
Well, there's the family can either be, and these are not completely mutually exclusive, but for instance, it's either the family of my parents and their parents and my children and their children and my siblings and their children, or it is the family of my guru. which does not eliminate the existence or our connection to our biological family, but what I was explaining is that the presence of a guru alters the shape of those subtle structures within us, enabling us to have a much greater range of motion, to not be limited by the same patterns that we will ordinarily be limited by in our life, which we have seen the outcome of over and over and over and over again for as long as our family system has existed.
I've never thought of it this way before, which is amazing to me. I think on some level I resisted the concept of having a guru as much as I would say all of my biological family, most of my close friends still to date, and the majority of people probably watching this, the concept of guru is weird, unnecessary. I don't need that. I can learn without that, and what is that? But I will say when I met you that just went away. But the other thing that did happen is there was a level of tension with my biological family that went away. Healing just happened. And is that maybe part of what you're talking about with so maybe the disappointments with my ancestors, the tensions I had wrapped around that, you were directly correlating with a resistance to having a guru.
That's because any dynamic system is self-perpetuating. And any change of state takes a lot of energy in order to be expressed. And so the analogy that we've used for a long time is it takes as much energy to move an ice cube from 0 to 32 as it does to take it from 32 to 33 where it becomes water, where its state has changed. So let's just say that in our regular family, in our biological family systems, the limited energy that is there because of centuries of suppression of pain and suffering, the limited energy and the limited flow and the limited range of motion, creates a self-reinforcing, self-sustaining state. Each family system has it may not be its own unique state and resonance. And so the whole idea in traditional, let me change, I don't want to just say in Asian spirituality, because it's not true, but there's much bigger thing. The whole idea of finding a teacher, having an initiation, and in the tantric tradition, initiation is so important. And the ceremony is supposed to change something. Well, it doesn't exactly, but the significance of that initiation, that is establishing yourself. The initiation is a second birth, being reborn. The whole idea of a Brahmin in India, Brahmin means what? Twice born. The notion of rebirth and transcending the limitations of our biological family for the sake of discovering the unique flavor of our own creative energy, of our own inner spirit, it's paramount in the system. And just the possibility of experiencing an energetic resource, an energy resource that reorganizes, and like you met me, you felt something. I met Rudy, I felt something. We've all met each other who are here. We're together because we feel the connection and we feel the impact that connection has on our daily lives and everything about us. But, we don't exactly see an instantaneous change. I mean, angels don't come down and hand you the keys to the kingdom most of the time. Sometimes they do. But, you know, what happens is your whole mindset, the whole way you see the world changes. And the whole way you experience yourself in the world changes. And that change is totally empowering. And, you know, empowering and informing in ways that, you know, bring balance and bring flow and bring, you know, a quality and a quantity of life experience that is unimaginable to anybody who can grok it.
Okay,
So the third thing
yeah.
is if you have your personal context and your family context, your philosophical context, your general outlook, which, you know, then places you in the larger, it places you in a society and a culture. That's your context, the three contexts.
Those three contexts, did we start this by talking about that's what a person who's doing the work
Is cultivating
Okay.
is developing these three contexts.
you'd compare to practice to these other altering drugs,
Mhm.
and said the difference is the drugs take you maybe there but don't keep you there?
Well,
Does a
here's the thing. A practice will take you there and keep you there if you keep doing the practice.
That's what, because my biggest question
The biggest
was,
thing is this. Doing drugs is unsustainable.
a practice is sustainable.
Practice is sustainable. The beginning point of our personal context is we're in this world to grow. And so what are we in this world to grow? What does that mean? Well, the next step I take that with is we are here to grow our creative energy. And what that looks like is a bigger range of intellectual and emotional motion, which, you know, manifests itself as service. And where that ends up is, and the ultimate of growing is, we are here to grow love. We are not here to get something, we are here to give something. And in giving something, we will be endlessly emptying ourselves that we can receive again and again and again, you know, another and a new and a new and a new and a renewed and a recreated life over and over again, thereby, you know, coming into a place where we're sort of, you know, the mythology is we have become immortal. And that's not a goal, that is just an effect of, you know, we are continuously experiencing our life as renewed.
So this is...
So that's our personal context. And then, going on to our familial context, you know, anything that grows sinks roots down into the earth, the world, and, you know, expresses also, you know, itself by reaching also out to the stars, you know, for the purpose of collecting material and absorbing energy and combining those two things in structure, which is expressed as our bodies and our lives. That structure, those for human beings, those emotional and intellectual connections between place and the people that we share our lives with this is significant. You know, and we talked about growing love. Well, what's that look like? Well, principally, it expresses itself at least as respect for the people, for our biological family, for the people that we share our work with, and the people who are in one way or another, we're serving and who are serving us. Our spiritual family too. So then, that also, those connections mature in a place, a state that is, I use the language to describe it as unconditional love.
Mm-hmm. The third context, the
So then-
philosophy, the
so-
overarching way of thinking and being with all things.
Well, but that's also the philosophy is about how we present ourselves to the world and how we see the world in order to take it in. Because we're taking in, we're growing, we're taking in the world, we're expressing ourselves. We're expressing ourselves and the world has changed and we take that in. I mean, there is a respiratory process from spirit to world and back to spirit again that is happening for each of us all the time, which has no emotional or intellectual content, but the connections through which this respiratory process is being expressed, have intellectual and emotional qualities to them that, define us as experience. People who experience. So, when we are committed to growing and we are actually growing and we are doing it, there's no end to the growing and there's no end to the learning and there's no end to the unimaginable possibility that has become our life. There's no end to it. But, and nobody here and nobody who's a real practitioner is ever going to say to anybody, do this, don't do that. And nobody's drawing a line in the sand and saying, if you go over there, you're not with us anymore. Nobody real is going to do that. But lots of people do that anyway because, they have experienced a change, been blessed in a way that fulfills their desire or their need, and they have no desire to work anymore. So they create phony reasons to leave. And the fact of the matter is that there are plenty of us here who've been here for a long time together. We have stayed together through everything. And to me, that's the only thing that has any, that matters. The rest of it is bullshit. Let everybody talk whatever they want to talk. I don't care. I really don't care. I care about the fact that those people, and I stay here, and do this because they're people who are really committed to those connections that they have established, to our connections, and are really working to cultivate unconditional love. It is the doing that qualifies us. There is no, if it's a basic state, if anybody walks in there's nobody on earth that is actually qualified. If you have a human body, you are by definition disqualified, and you have to make the effort to qualify yourself by establishing that connection. You have to input the programming, and you have to re-input the programming over and over and over again, because that programming has to penetrate those three layers. The fundamental thing that you have to do first is hold that feeling in your heart. And holding that feeling and expanding that feeling will change the state of the chakra. That energetic point, once your heart changes its state, if you hold that long enough, everything will change.
Yeah.
You only have to change one part of you and everything will shift around. We have this extraordinary computer in us, and if we can get the message to it, if we can input the programming that we're here to grow, then, it's like, I met Rudy. Dr. Becker turns up in my life as soon as Rudy's gone. not only does he like help me physically, he'd keep me intact, but I learned something significant from him. Significant in two ways. One is my relationship with him was a significant source of insight into the work that I was trying to do, and it was a significant toolkit for helping other people as well. How could I have ever found him? He's in a cubbyhole in Dallas, So and he turns up in my life. And I could go on with that analogy all the way through. From Swami Muktananda, Swami Lakshmanju, Mama Wangdu, Alexis, etc. All these things have presented themselves. And I didn't have to really, I could have never figured it out on my own. But because I really worked hard on that wish to grow and put in that programming into myself, then my own life, my nerves, my channels, is reaching out into the world and connecting me to the circumstances that were appropriate to my development. And that same opportunity exists for everybody.